Hello, David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. I am joined with probably a very familiar face, TGV from the Urban Gentry. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Love the jackets.
Thank you. So they are Clark's Desert Boots.
Nice.
Not a Bond brand, but they feel very Bondish.
Yeah, no, they look very Bond.
They're your cup of tea?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Well, by the way, first of all, we've got to tell for the horribly uninitiated,
Yes.
who is TGV? What is the Urban Gentry? Just a short little synopsis.
Okay, so I started the channel a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, I can't even remember. I used to talk about things I loved, like Clark's, that would be a good example, books, films, that kind of stuff. I even did a few Bond videos back in the day. Yeah, and then
I think I've seen those.
Right. Oh no, they were terribly rudimentary. But anyway, so I then started doing watch reviews, and slowly they kind of took over. People really liked them, and this was the early days of sorry, I'm getting a muddle. So many cameras. This was like the early days of watches and watch reviews on YouTube, so there wasn't that much, and then they kind of went viral. I went more in that direction. The brand changed its focus. I still cover, I still will talk about books and films. Obviously Bond comes into it a lot, so it's like a lifestyle, but it's a watch channel with a slight lifestyle twist now.
Yeah. And I love it because you add in fitness and health and the sartorial aspects. So it's not a watch as an accessory, but also as an emotional connection.
Absolutely.
So that's what I love it. It's not what I was nervous about with some of these channels is that it's going to get very technical,
right? And
yours is almost artistic. It's about everything that surrounds the world of a watch. You've got to check it out if you haven't.
Yes, please do.
I've rebranded you.
I love that. That's the best. You could definitely tell you've come from a business background because the way you see things.
It's the way I'm wired. But you and I really struck up a very fast, but I think significant friendship, because I think we have so much in common, whether it's family, career, and obviously our love of these sartorial moments. And I've asked TGV to really get on this particular video.
Okay.
To take us a walk with me.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
it could be a long walk.
Okay.
But it's a walk really through the movies of James Bond in a sartorial way. And I just want to talk about some of those indelible moments. And this is a good time for you because, correct me if I'm wrong, are you rewatching all the movies?
Yes, yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, after we met, we recorded the video for the first time. We've recorded several since.
Yeah.
I really wanted to revisit it now as a grown-up, and from start to finish. So I'm going in chronological order.
Very smart.
I've just got to the Roger Moore era.
Okay, so you just hit Live and Let Die?
Yeah, which we'll talk about later because I have to. Well, I'm starting to get a new appreciation for Roger Moore, but I guess we'll talk about that in a second. It's always been a big part of it. I've always been a Bond fan.
Right.
But I think, and we've talked about this before, being British and having that relationship with Bond is different from the rest of the world, because I think we're just raised on it. Yeah. It's like every Christmas there's Bond on the telly. This was before internet. This was before all of that choice. Or choice paralysis, as Einstein used to. That's why he wore the same clothes every day.
Yes,
he didn't want choice paralysis.
That's right.
It's an integral. And now I'm really starting to appreciate more, and through your channel as well. And you kind of re-inspired me, which is strange because when I started my channel, I watched you. I was aware of your channel, and when we first met, it was a bit kind of. It's like meeting one of your heroes,
Oh my gosh!
No, it is. Like you've inspired me, man. You really have.
Well, thank you, and vice versa. I mean, I think what we do is we tend to, and this is why I think these talks are so great, is that we feed off of each other.
Right.
So we spur each other on. One of the things that you just mentioned is through a new adult eye.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I wanted to borrow, because I know when I saw Bond as a child. My father's not British, but you would think that he was, because Bond was so important to him. And I think I made mention to you, not the type of father that would go in the backyard and throw baseball to
Right.
at all. Businessman, entrepreneur, very focused. But he would carve out time with James Bond. So James Bond was my holiday moments.
Yeah.
It was my daddy moments. I mean, I could be laying down in the psychiatry couch.
Right.
Every one of my British friends that I run into say, you have to understand, David, Bond was a part of the holidays just like, Christmas goose and pie.
Right.
It's like, now it's time to watch Bond.
Bond, yeah.
So it's something you grow up with. But you and I have both now been immersed, marinated in the world of watches, clothing, chukka boots.
Right.
So now that you're rewatching the Bond movies, are you noticing those aspects more?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially through watching you as well, you've made me appreciate the details. Because, and I'm going to talk about Live and Let Die. I can't hold. I'm holding back because
Poor Sean Connery.
Having said that, Diamonds Are Forever was just atrocious. I used to like that
From a sartorial standpoint.
I think in every standpoint. I look back at it and I had fond memories of it.
Right.
And now I just thought Sean Connery, he felt like he didn't really want to be there.
Yeah.
And the fashion and the...
Tell me about Diamonds Are Forever from two standpoints. I'd love to get your opinion on this.
Right.
Number one, as a movie, so you're starting to get into that. And talk to me about everything from the way he looked to even the fashion.
Did he wear sandals?
Sandals, yes
Yeah.
he did.
Okay, I wasn't imagining that. Okay.
But he also wore sandals in Thunderball.
Yeah, but there's something about, I don't know, Thunderball, it felt right with his attire. It felt,
So it's contextual.
yeah, it just,
Yeah.
I think because there's something, that film, Diamonds Are Forever, it felt sleazy to me.
Well, it opens up the very first time you see James Bond. He's walking down in sandals. He's
Yeah.
got terry cloth top, which not a lot of people liked.
Yeah.
And the sandals,
Yeah.
very Bondish in some people's mind. But on top of that, he literally takes the woman's bikini
Right,
top and
yes.
chokes her for information.
Yes, yeah. I now as a grown up, living in today's world.
Right.
As a child, you don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
But I
Were you
looked
like
at that.
kind of bracing yourself, like, whoa?
Yeah,
almost forgot that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because he almost gets away with it because it's Sean Connery.
Right.
But at the same time, if that was made today, I mean, it's so wrong on so many levels.
And he looked beyond his age, so he was in his early to mid 40s in Diamonds Are Forever. And then when you see him in the unauthorized film Never Say Never Again, he actually looks better.
Yeah.
And in Never Say Never Again, he was my age. He was like 51 or 52, and he actually looks better.
I actually think Never Say Never is better because it just, I don't know, he had a nonchalance in that it felt completely different. It was a little bit darker in tone.
Yes.
And it's the same Thunderball story.
It is Thunderball, yeah.
And I also think the villain, she was quite sexy and kind of cool. I kind of like that.
Yes.
But anyway, sorry, we're going off on a tangent.
No.
But then comes in Roger Moore,
Right.
who the pea coat he wears.
So we're in Live and Let Die now.
Yeah. Now,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
Bond is Sean Connery's out.
Yeah.
And suddenly we got Roger Moore, who's more. He's more refined. He's like a true English gent.
They call him the Gentleman Bond.
Right.
Because he is. He's this. Even from a sartorial standpoint, he looks like. This is going to sound very strange to people. He looks like he smells like florists.
Yeah.
He looks like he smells.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually
yeah.
chose those words appropriately.
Yeah.
But I can just almost like see florists. Sean Connery in Diamonds Are Forever smells like Aquavelva.
Right.
It's just something disconnect. And by the way, those films are back to back.
Yes. Yeah.
They're back to back, which is crazy. You see this sloughing off, whipped cream in the sun, Sean Connery, and then you see Roger Moore, and he looks great.
Yeah. And what I really like about it is that his choices have. I remember I did a bit of reading because I wanted to see what was the initial reaction to that movie.
Yeah.
It was kind of lukewarm. A lot of people loved because he had already established himself as the saint and all this kind of stuff. So he and Roger Moore, is the way he talks, the way he carries himself. He's so British, and he has he just has class.
He does.
It's undeniable.
Exudes it.
He exudes it, and he brought that back to the role, which I think it needed. It lost. Then later Roger Moore, I think, became more comical.
Absolutely.
And a little bit of that was lost. I didn't feel it was as refined. But that peacoat, and it's contrasted by these drug dealers in Harlem, and I love that, because if you look at their fashion, they may have been, sorry, my English, they may have been very hip and trendy at the time, but it's dated. Whereas his peacoat is, you could wear that, you could walk down Bond Street wearing that, and it looks.
I love how you put that. I've often told people, to me, the dichotomy, the contrast of him walking around Harlem with the garbage and the trash, and even the other fashions, to me, they're wearing fashion, he's wearing style. And style never goes away.
It's timeless.
He's this beacon in the dark. I mean, he's just a lighthouse in a fog, and suddenly you're like, he's wearing that Chesterfield coat as he's walking through, and he's got the gloves and they fit perfectly. And you're just like, shut up.
He
looks the money.
Absolutely. And
by the way, I thought of you in Live and Let Die. And by the way, I think I know where you're going with Live and Let Die as far as how much you're enjoying it.
Okay.
When you first see him in his apartment, which is a rare moment to see Bond in his apartment, I love those lifestyle Bond moments. And he makes that coffee for M. And it's all this pomp and circumstance, which I think is also very British and wonderful. And, kind of this man's moment of like, and M even goes, is that all it does?
Yeah.
I thought of you because you do, I think, love those wonderful complexities of sartorial moments that I think are kind of lost, whether it's shaving or making a cappuccino.
It's important. It's very important. In fact, one of my first videos was reviewing a little Bialetti, the little Italian coffee makers. And
the Chemex and
it's important to know these things, and I think that's also something that Roger Moore brought, is that Sean Connery is the kind of guy that you'd go to the pub with, and if a fight breaks out, which is very normal in England, but if it does, he's the guy you want to have like in the pub, right?
Yes.
But if you go to a restaurant that you've been on a waiting list, or you've had to bring in favors to call people up to make reservations, right? You want to go with Roger Moore.
That's a great point.
Because he's going to know exactly what spoon that goes with the caviar and what all these little refinements. He's going to know those.
And it's funny because you're right. Sean Connery definitely could be in a scrap and handle himself in real life back then. The stunt people on a lot of the Roger Moore sets said that Roger had trouble kicking over his waist.
Oh, really?
Like he couldn't do it. So fight scenes for him were a little anemic. So I think that's a good call. Yeah. But I have a question, and it's a little jump back and forth. Think about Live and Let Die in your head, and think about the first few Sean Connery films. Being the watch guy, how much were you connecting now as an adult when you're watching it to the watches? And do you get giddy when you see Goldfinger, Sean Connery looking?
Absolutely. I think my appreciation it's only intensified. Especially now I have the Blu-ray set.
Yes.
Because the Blu-ray set, you see, and
every nook and cranny.
I have my big screen over there. And to me, it's like, it's funny because the way I was raised, big televisions, my parents were always like, they're ghastly, I don't know why, and then I feel guilty. I want to hide this.
Small's better.
Yeah, but it's not. It's so wrong. It's like you see it on the big screen, and with the Blu-ray 4K quality, it's just it has much more of an emotional, because now I know what that watch means, what it meant to the history of Rolex, to the history of the Submariner, to its significance has been intensified. So yeah, absolutely, I'll get giddy. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting because Live and Let Die, and by the way, I've actually said this to people. Live and Let Die to me is my favorite Roger Moore film. I did a review with a good friend of mine, Joe Darlington.
I watched that. That was excellent. Yeah.
And he disagreed. I think he liked Octopussy better, but I said, to me, Live and Let Die has everything.
Yes.
It's got the music, it's got the Bond girl, it's got a great bad guy.
Yes.
And then it's got these incredible sartorial moments. And
absolutely. I couldn't agree. I think now it's become my second favorite.
Wow.
Which is a big statement for me, because
Yes.
there's so many I love. But yeah, it makes me miss Roger. It's
I know.
it's
Now, what happens when you move from Live and Let Die to the other Roger Moore films, and suddenly it's less about Rolex and more
about Seiko.
Seiko
Yeah.
and Pulsar?
I have to admit, and we've discussed this in a video that's
Right.
it's in editing hell right now. Because so I should explain. We shot a video where we went through every single Bond watch.
You did.
And it was so long. We're going to have to make it a series.
Yeah.
And
2 parts of it.
I'm just going to have employ a team to edit it, because it's just there's so much. But it will be out next year.
Yes.
But anyway, we discussed Seiko, and I think I said that Seiko for me is I've said it's on my channel. It's my favorite brand, and I really do believe that.
Yeah.
Horologically, what they've done. And I'm not talking about the Bond franchise. I'm talking about their significance as a watchmaking brand, as what they've done technologically to the history of horology. Nobody has consistently brought in so many firsts.
Right.
When we talk about watches, firsts are very important. The first watch to do this, the first watch to do 100 meters of water resistance, blah, blah, all this kind of stuff. I always disregarded Seiko because I didn't think the brand image as affordable watches, I didn't think it matched Bond. Mm-hmm. But that was because I was ignorant and I didn't understand the history of Seiko. I didn't understand that they've made watches for the RAF. Sorry, I shouldn't be a bit clearer. The chronograph he has, the polar white dial chronograph. Yep. When he's in that igloo, that ridiculous igloo, which is completely ridiculous. But that chronograph was the first analog quartz chronograph, which is a big thing.
It's huge.
Yeah. And so so I forgot that at the time it's cutting edge technology. Yeah. And when you start to appreciate, because it's a pre-smartwatch, pre-smartphone, pre-internet world. Yeah. This thing is high tech, That's why the RAF said we're having that. We're issuing it to our pilots.
It's funny you bring this up because this is a conversation I've had with so many people. Roger Moore especially gets a lot of bruising for his sartorial nature as you leave Live and Let Die.
Oh, it got pretty bad. Yeah,
the wingspan of the shirts and the jackets and loudness and the flaring. But the reality is, it is a moment in time. And what happens is we have a tendency, and this is about any franchise, we have a tendency to take today's moment, our filter today, 2019, when you're watching this, and we put an older film like that through it and go, well, that's horrific.
Yeah.
But the reality is Roger Moore was being dressed by the best tailors in all of England.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying about, I think, a little bit too much trend and fashion came into it, and these tailors were trying to compete on an international market, and they had to compete with louder influences from other countries, and they lost a little bit of that conservative, because let's not forget that the Brits, they invented the suit in the Edwardian era, right? So that very classic look, they went away from that. Yeah. And I think that's it loses some of the Britishness.
It does.
I love to see a Prince of Wales pattern. When you posted one on Instagram, I was just like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. And they're doing, and it's right, because that's something my grandfather would wear. But I have a Lock and Co cap. Right. One of the few.
Like a flat cap?
Flat cap. Mm-hmm. I could wear that easily now.
Oh, yes.
It's so classic.
Yes.
The print, the pattern, the tweed. It's Harris tweed. It's just so. These things are timeless, and I think that's what happened. I think they wanted Bond to compete and make him a little bit. And it's like you said, it went away from the style, more towards the fashionable.
They have been guilty often enough for us to highlight that when they try to make Bond hip, not the movie Bond, but Bond himself hip, I think they actually do themselves a disservice. And I'll give you an example that is literally today. if you look at the fashion, and I have a video coming out just specifically on No Time to Die, all the different clothing that Bond wears. If you look at that particular fashion, I truly believe that there's a few moments, including that beautiful suit that you just focused on from Tom Ford, Prince of Wales check, where Bond looks Bond. I mean, he looks classic Bond, and you get that surge of nostalgia. Remember, I told you, nostalgia is a very, very important marketing tool. We need to feel it, smell it, and taste it. However, he also is wearing a lot of Henleys. He's wearing a lot of things that Daniel Craig would want to wear.
Yeah, you see,
to me, it's too hip, it's too fashionable.
I'm not a fan of Henley shirt.
Yeah, he's wearing like 2 or 3 in the movie.
You see, back in the Victorian era, they were underwear.
Yes,
and
so collar workers, in the mines.
Exactly. To me, I look at that, especially when people try to be trendy, and I'm like, why are you wearing underwear? Maybe my eyes are so. I often think I belong in a different age anyway, but I mean, I can't remove that association.
I totally agree, which is why when we see him in a well-cut, a really nice tailored polo or a Harrington jacket or something that is quintessential, even the Barbour jacket, those types of things scream out to me that's right. This is a British icon. He lives and breathes in there, and there's something to that. When I see him honestly look like Daniel Craig walking down the streets of New York in his own fashion style, to me, it tends to take me out of the movie.
Yes.
And people, I don't think I'm the only one. It's problematic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think going back to the sandals thing, that's the difference between.
That took you out of the movie.
Yeah, it didn't do that in Thunderball.
Interesting.
And I don't know why. I think it matched his attire.
Yeah.
It just matched. I have a big thing about wearing flip-flops in public. I don't wear flip-flops unless I'm at the beach.
Right.
I refuse to wear flip-flops.
Yes.
I'll wear flip-flops at home,
but
nobody's ever going to see me wearing flip-flops unless I'm at the beach.
Yep.
And then in the summertime, I've lived in New York for 10 years, people wear it on the subway, and that's fine. But I think attire has to be appropriate to your environment. That's what I'm trying to say. My mini rant on flip-flops.
Well, so Daniel Craig in No Time to Die wears Havaianas flip-flops in his own home, in in Jamaica in the movie.
That's fine. It's Jamaica.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Exactly.
It's Jamaica.
So he should be, if he's at home on his beach, wearing flip-flops.
That's absolutely fine.
But he's not going to see M in flip-flops.
No. You go into Whitehall wearing flip-flops. Can you imagine that?
No, we're not going to see that happily. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.